And welcome back, esports fans. For the last time tonight, we got one more matchup here in the PCS Week 2, day number 1. I am still Pyrotechnics. He is still Clement, unless something crazy has happened, but I'm pretty sure it's still us. It's been a long day, but not that long. But I would like to thank our sponsors before we get started with the last match today. CTPC Bank, China Airlines, and Chunghwa Telecom. Thank you so much for helping to make the PCS possible. Now, Clement, I know you're excited to see Liyab. That's the good news. The bad news is PSG Talon are their opponents today, 4-0, and here they are. Their lineup: Hanabi in the top side, River in the jungle, Maple on mid, Unified and Kaiwing making at the bottom. And what's not to like about this roster?
Everything seems to be firing on all cylinders. You know, they had a couple of hiccups in the early game, especially in that Alpha Esports series. But other than that, they all seem to be performing really well. Unified Kaiwing winning out the bot lane. Hanabi actually having a tear on champions like Gwen. And River, if he gets 5 kills today, he actually will be the first player to hit 40 kills so far. So that's something we can look out for. You know, he's leading the pack with 35 kills so far. Was our man of the week coming in from week 1. And now we're on week 2. I think he's going to continue that trend.
Heck of a milestone to try to hit 40 kills in 4 days of play if he manages it today. And I think it's entirely possible. And that really honestly speaks to how strong this team is. Just such an incredible squad. It feels like there's strength coming from every lane, and River as well, stepping up huge in that last week and getting himself the MVP of the whole week effectively. Honestly, it's hard to find a weakness here. You mentioned a couple of points against Alpha, maybe a few stumbling blocks, you know, but it's just nitpicking when there's almost flawless play from every one of these players.
I was talking to Gwen, which was not Gwen, Glenn, which was their general manager on PSG, and you know, a lot of times PSG, they can play whatever they want in PCS because their caliber is just much higher than their opposition teams. But talking about David Goliath stories, I'm so glad the Liyab have decided to stick to their changes and put Kanji, that man, into the top lane.
Yeah, I really love this. This is a team, like many others, not afraid to mess around with their formula here, with Kanji coming back into the top, Dodoi in that jungle, Ziliath in the mid, Dawn and Aiden will be rounding out the lineup, and they don't look too worried for taking on Goliath, starting off, still hunting for that first win, but, you know, I think Liyab fans can be happy with what we've seen, some glimmers of hope for this team. It's a tough climb. They have a lot of tough competition, and they might not get that win today, but I think it's going to happen before too long.
The craziest thing for Liyab after they swapped out their roster is their early game has improved so massively. We'll get you the stats after this head-to-head, but first off, we will be looking at the new support coming in from Liyab. Aiden, he's primarily an engage first support. We have seen pretty slow lanes coming out from them, but you know, I would be pretty happy to call him an upgrade over what we've seen from Cresho in the past already. A lot less bottom lane deaths happening between Dawn and Aiden compared to their previous splits. But on the other hand, he is going up against the King and potential MVP of the entire PCS right here. 7.5 KDA, just immaculate stats across the board.
On a support, no less.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy for his kill participation. That's a stat that I feel it's pretty hard to have like a plus 70 in today's meta. It's very skirmish oriented. We have a lot of side lane played. So to still have a 70 plus KP is an achievement in itself. And I will tell our viewers that the last time we had Kaiwing play up against Liyab, there were a bit of shenanigans. You know, this is not a matchup where you expect PSG to kind of just play standard. We might be seeing things like Spike, we might be seeing things like the Cho'Gath. Anything is really possible here.
Again, I've said it before, but it bears repeating. It's one of the reasons I love this league, Clement. They like to pull out some crazy stuff, especially when they're having a little bit of fun. But, you know, maybe that opens some opportunities up. Maybe Liyab can find a way in. You talked about it being a David versus Goliath story. Definitely hard to find a much more a much bigger gap between teams just in terms of where their record stands at the moment. But Liyab on that improvement. Maybe they have a chance here today. Maybe, just maybe. We'll start off on the picks and bans. We got the Gwen, we got the Olaf taken away, and of course on the Liyab side, that Lucian ban.
Yep, and to talk about the ban so far, PSG, I think their most deadly composition are these early game tempo comps. Things like the Twisted Fate, the Xin Zhao, they get Maple snowballing, they make sure you can move to all these different lanes. They're already better players than most of their opposition, and when they can congregate together, it just makes the entire situation unmanageable. So I think if you're banning against PSG, you definitely want to take a look out at globals, that sort of thing, where they can really move rapidly around the map. For Liyab's side, I think they have quite an interesting take on the meta so far. We've been seeing things like Tristana come out from them. They've been playing very aggressive from Dodoy's standpoint and trying to play more scaling on the other sides of the map. So they definitely have their own take on the meta. It's not really standard whatsoever, but they've been making it work in the early game, which is why I'm so proud about Liyab. In the spring split, they were negative over 4,400 gold at 15 minutes. But this split, they're only negative 73. That's a 4,000 gold improvement in their early game. Just compare it from their spring to their summer split. So there's a lot to be proud about for Liyab. They can hang with the best in the early game. Now it's just about cutting down on mid-game mistakes. They tend to over-push like hell when it comes to the post 25 minutes, and that's when they usually give up massively. But if they can keep that in check, this team has got me really, really hyped up.
There's always a chance, absolutely. Liyab trying one step at a time to improve so they can find their wins. Looking at the pickups already, oh my goodness, that flash on the Draven, how cheeky from PSG. They don't do it. I would have loved it, but they got a Nocturne. Champion has been banned quite a bit. River will get his hands on the Diana. On the opposite side for Liyab, they've got a Viego and a Ziggs. And, well, this is something we've seen out of Kai Wing already. The Bard, I wouldn't be too surprised to see it, and it locks in.
This is such a great tower diving mechanism here. You have the Nocturne that can fly in from over 2,000 range, and then you have the Bard that can disable the tower with Tempered Fate. So PSG are definitely looking to close this day out with a bang. They're trying to do the speed run on Liyab, and this is exactly what I think PSG do best, in regardless of their opposition. Their best sort of strategy is to make sure they're chock full of globals and also chock full of tower dive potential. This is exactly what they drafted. It could be a very, very quick end to the day.
Yeah, a lot of coordination required to pull that type of thing off, but that's what PSG are great at. So into ban phase 2, Varus taken away by Liyab. How does PSG respond for this one? We're still looking for a bottom laner for Unified to pair up with that, but he's done a lot of stuff here so far in this summer split. The Aphelios has been a big one for him, and it does remain available. Of course, we'll see if that changes. Liyab considering maybe banning that away as well.
Usually the Nocturne does go towards the top lane on PSG, so you should expect it on Hanabi. So we are looking at mid and 80 carry for this team composition. You definitely want to ban out things that can push very well. So I like this ban from Liyab. Varus is definitely the answer right here. Varus can put your bottom lane underneath the tower, and you're just going to get dove over by River and Hanabi coming from the other parts of the map. I love this ban from them. The other, I'm not sure about the Ezreal. I would be pretty happy to leave the Ezreal open, to be honest, because it's not a champion that actually can push against the Ziggs. But they're going to take it out anyway. I would have much preferred early aggression. 80 carries, something like the Callista would be something I would be looking at. But honestly, that's kind of a weird lane with the Bard as well. So yeah, maybe Ezreal makes a little bit of sense, but I don't think it's really a push pick that PSG were looking for. Now, on Liyab's side, we have seen Viego go towards Kanji in the top lane. And once again, it does look like that's where it's going to go. We're going to get a call back to Dodoy's glory days.
We got a Graves jungle for this one. Ooh, boy. Comfort works, man.
I'm not sure about this one. So the logic here is that if you can get Graves against Diana isolated in the opponent jungle, then it's super strong. You can push the Diana around, but the thing is, Graves is it's a feast or famine champion. You have to get ahead of the opposition, and I'm not sure that Dawn is going to get the backup needed to have the support for him to go for counter engage, like for counter jungle. If he doesn't get the backup from the rest of the lanes, this Graves pick doesn't really work through. Now, on the other hand, for PSG, they pick something that can play weak side in the bottom side, allow this Bard to roam around. So even though the Ezreal's gone, they still have the Jhin. And to be honest, I like the Jhin over the Ezreal anyway. I think Jhin has a lot more wave clear potential with his 4-shot on ultimate. He can also just snipe targets out after you go for the dive. So a lot of flexibility there. And rounding it out is a bit of poke comp coming in from Maple. So PSG, they're definitely going for a level 6 tower dive you and just kill you all over the map. If you don't read our rotations, you are instantly dead. And it's really hard to react to a composition like this. A lot of times you have to have your finger over the TP almost at all times, just ready for that paranoia to come down.
Yeah, I certainly think it will be hitting quite a lot. And you know what I like about what they picked for Unified 2 in that Jhin is if he's in the right place at the right time, he can even participate in those dives. He can just try to open up the curtain call and just try to help snipe things out. So PSG have a lot of options from long range to get into Liyab's face. And Liyab, job is going to be for them to try and really just hold on to this one and stop some of those dives, stop some of those pushes. We will see as the timer ticks down. It looks like we got a little debated, Clement. There's a Graves going top? Question mark?
Okay, this is super interesting. I actually think Graves is one of the better matchups against Nocturne. You get extra armor from True Grit, and you can actually disengage from the Nocturne quite easily. Of course, post 6, it's a different matter, and I expect post 6, you're simply just going to die to the Nocturne. Like, there's not much you can do about that one. But
maybe Kanji's got a strat.
Yeah, to me, it looks like what they're going to do is they're going to all in on top side, just protect Kanji. If you're on even footing, Nocturne can actually just one-shot you. Well, once he gets paranoia. So you pretty much have to get a lead, and a pretty sizable lead at that, in order to maintain this matchup. I'm a little bit confused here. There also could be a world where we just see Graves mid. This is also a very popular Korean build that we've seen in the offseason. It pushes extremely well. And I think Xyliat, like, to me, Viego versus Nocturne makes a little bit more sense, rather than isolating Graves in a long lane like that.
And Kanji
so
has swapped before. A couple of times, in fact.
So I would bet that Viego probably going top. He does have that extra range advantage, and it does look like that's where it's going.
Yeah, we can see the Graves running straight to the mid lane. So they really saved the swap to the last, and we are loaded up for the last game today on Summoner's Rift. PSG Talon, undefeated, taking on Liyab, still hunting for their first win. And it will be a monumental task for them to try and pick one up here, but we will see.
I really like this draft idea for Liyab. What they're saying is basically we are going to give all of our best players the most dynamic champions and have them skirmish 3v3 on the top side. Bottom lane is a complete afterthought in this game. Both Kaiwing and Aiden should be leaving the lane. It's just going to be a push forward. Nobody cares about bottom lane. But if you look about the tops, think about the top side. PSG traditionally has had their weak spot in the top side. Hanabi has been their weak side player. He doesn't get any resources. A lot of times he will back out off of the wave if he feels threatened enough. So Liyab are trying to do what EU has done to the LMS region for so many years and try to replicate it against PSG. Like, they're definitely coming in with a pretty solid strategy here, and we can tell from the jungle pathings, immediately it's a party in the top side.
Yep, that's what they're going to be going for here to kick things off. But for right now, just going to see the early laning as Hanabi comes out of the brush and gets a little spooky. Don't think Xyliat's going to be too worried about that to start. The Nocturne will certainly be the focus of this Liyab squad. Meanwhile, I definitely want to keep an eye on this Graves mid up against the likes of Maple. Ooh, a lot of poke already.
Yep, what we have seen from the Graves mid is he's just such a monster clear, and he typically just goes for a full armor penetration build, which is very good against mages. It forces them to go Seekers, and that isn't exactly something you want to do if you're a burst mage. So it really just puts a lot of pressure onto Zoe and make sure that she is behind in her build. But we haven't really seen it work out that much in competitive. I'm not aware of anyone that has tried for this build. It was all the rage in High Korean Challenger for a while, but competitive, it's still a pretty difficult build to execute. It's one of those game compositions that if you ever make a mistake and fall behind, you're just out of the game. So there's not a lot of room for error, but when you get it to go, it's very, punishing.
You know, there's been a theme tonight. Not a lot of room for error usually results in some error, Clement. I don't know if I fancy those chances.
Yeah, I think that's a fair thing to say, and you can definitely tell that Liyab's topside is going to drop off pretty hard. They have 3 AD champions, and Dawn has to be the one dealing all of the magic damage on this composition. So if Liyab don't get a winning skirmish earlier on, I wouldn't fancy their chances, but, you know, you could also say on the flip side, PSG are definitely not going for scaling. This is just an all-out brawl comp with a lot of globals to make fights happen, and PSG is like bread and butter in the new split. They know their biggest advantage is their ability to coordinate rotations throughout the entire map.
Speaking about rotations, here comes Kaiwing already on that roam. Looks like he's going to be meep slapping Dodoy. Actually sits there. No, he takes the magical journey in for safety instead. Okay.
Yeah, I think he realized he was getting out-rotated right there, you know. Rotations is a two-way street. Sometimes you go counterclockwise, and the enemy team just runs straight into you. So, good move there, but it does reveal Dodoy's pathing, and if you look on the top side, it's a pretty rough time for Xyliath.
Yeah, he's getting completely zoned out of his own lane. River just shows up, says booga booga booga, and he's gone. Teleport back at least.
Losing a teleport early against Paranoia is super painful. So we watch this interval, what's going to happen is that Hanabi is going to able to hit level 6, Xyliath is not going to have TP, and Hanabi gets a free gank into the bot lane. There's really not much that Liyab's bot lane can do against that. Paranoia is going to drop, and Temper Fate's going to go down, and Dom probably dies. And after that, Hanabi can even TP back to the top, so... yeah.
All right, you called it. We'll have to wait for those levels to see when it happens. Meanwhile, Dawn and Aiden just trying to play back as best they can. Kyling's roam didn't really seem to cost a whole lot of anything.
There's going to be a lot of pressure on this bot lane to keep the wave shoved off of their tower. If it ever goes into their own tower and Nocturne is not visible, then they probably just die. So a lot of pressure there, and I think right now also Xyliath is having such a hard time. Usually this is a winning lane for the Viego because of his range difference. But you can see Hanabi definitely getting the better of the trades here. He had a better back timing coming up with the pickaxe, and also just landing all of his Qs and making life very miserable.
Yeah. We talked about how Hanabi typically... playing on a weak side top lane in the traditional sense, but this split, he really has put on his carry pants quite a lot and just really played it out very well. And I think that's been kind of like a linchpin of PSG strategy. They don't really have losing lanes for the most part. Now, River going once again up to the top, now has Moonfall available, and Xyliath knows something's up and once again zoned off. They don't have to actually gank the Viego. They just starve him instead.
Yeah, and this is really scary. They can do this multiple times, and look how much room this has created. If they force Dodoy and Xyliath to show themselves tough, that means bot lane is wide open. So it's just a sort of juggling act where Liyab have to keep Xyliath alive, but they also can't overcommit to chasing them off. If you chase but don't actually find a skirmish that you can commit to, then they can just change to the other side. Or they could do this.
And they already collapse onto Dodoy. Here comes the Paranoia, first blood, and they make it look so easy.
Yeah, Xyliath can't even join the picture. Dodoy, even with flash, just goes down in an instant. Once again, PSG is really knowing how to rotate very well. You know, they make sure to isolate Kanji on the play by rotating through the jungle, and then they head back for another gank. So just a repeat move right here. Really clever use of just pressuring on all different sides. And Liyab, they have multiple questions that they need to solve right here. They have to make sure that Xyliath is not going to just completely collapse. I think he's fine right now. He is behind by about 1 level in PCS, but it really is going to be a worsening situation from what we've seen in the lane. And they do have to devote probably Kanji or Dodoy to go there just to make sure that this lane doesn't completely collapse.
Yeah. Fortunately, they do have the ability to really make some moves around the map. We just saw that Aiden going on a bit of a roam didn't really cost Dawn anything. You know, one of the things about bottom lane being a lot more of a quieter affair than it used to be is that you can do a bit more of a roam without being punished too heavily by your opposition. Now, Kanji is going to be having to back away, getting poked out a little bit by Maple Zoe here. Does seem like the focus really is all on that top side, though, and maybe repeated. River has shown face not once, but twice.
At least Liyab has been able to make it like through 60% of his TP timing, so Liyab don't have to hold on for that much longer. But what they really need to do at this point is they need to get Kanji ahead. If you look at the summoners from Kanji, this is an all-in build. It's no TP, it's Ignite, it's a one-shot build. And if you don't get the lethality going, then lethality falls off like a truck in the later phases of the game. It just doesn't punch through very well. I like what Liyab are doing. They're roaming Aiden preemptively to try and find an early gank, and exactly this is the timing you would want to do it on the second blue buff. Unfortunately, they don't get the collapse soon enough, but it looks like they are setting up for a full committal on this Herald.
Yeah, they might just do, but they're going to need all their members for it. Xyliath is finding himself caught. That Harrowed Path is not doing nearly enough to save him. He's forced to flash away, and even that's not enough. Hanabi pulls the trigger on the Paranoia, takes him down solo, and that's going to immediately prompt this Herald play for PSG. River already in position with Kai Wing. Dodo and Kanji going to try to peel him off. Looks like they can do it for now, and they're just going to straight up fight it. Oh boy, there's the moonfall pulling into the curtain call. Unified taking down Dodoy, and it was all a trap, Clement. It was all a bait.
Yeah, that was a bit weird from Liyab. If you're gonna do something like that, you have to make sure you get a kill right off the bat. It has to be a very hard engage into just evening up the numbers. But they didn't really go for that. They actually went for a pretty slow objective contest and just got hard punished. So as a weird continuation from the play coming in Liyab's side, like if you're gonna venture into the river and do this, I actually expect Dodoy to save his Q for the kickback into an instant kill. If you're just going for like a half-hearted Herald attempt, I really don't think it's worth the risk here, and they pay dearly.
Yeah, and they didn't even get River. He was so low in that one, but they couldn't quite find the kill. A little unfortunate for the Liyab side, and some questionable decision-making, but trying to react, trying to get kills, trying to get something, and they're just not able to find it.
That's a little bit painful to see for Xyliath. He was a mid laner, but now going into the top lane, it seems like he hasn't been able to gauge his safety distance so far, and Hanabi is just so fed. It's the 3 plates and the 3 kills and the completed mythic that is completely busted on 11.13. This is the patch where Strikebreaker is at its zenith, the 90% slow. It's just going to make sure that Xyliath without flash is basically never going to survive. So we talked about Liyab's win condition. They definitely wanted to look for early 3v3s in the top side of the map, but they didn't get that. They got to fed Hanabi instead.
Yeah, that's pretty much the opposite of what you want. They will try to get a pick here as Hanabi worth quite a lot of gold. You can see Xyliath trying to get the finisher. Oh. They do it, but it goes to the Leona. Still, I feel like it flashes the emote. I love it. Now we got the dive onto the bottom, and Dodoy trying to get Kai Wing, but they turn under tower. Another big moonfall there for River. Nets him too. Kai Wing will die, and Xyliath is not keen to let River walk away scot-free. Looking for at least 1 kill, and he needs it. Oh, the taunt, the emotes. Is he gonna get that execute? No, it was Dawn that had the damage on him.
Yeah, that's all in all not too bad, and we also had PSG rotating to give Kanji a little bit more room to get his items here. So if we look at the holistic picture, I believe that was actually just a 2-for-2 trade. That's definitely Liyab. Something that Liyab would want to see, given how big of a deficit they found themselves in.
Yeah, and even trade when you're far behind certainly isn't the worst case scenario for you. Ooh, okay, Sleepy Trouble Bubble landing in a big old paddle star.
Dodoy
now the tag from Dodoy doesn't have the damage though. And he steps forward, steps back again. Kai Wing waiting, looking for the bait. But now the teams are starting to get scrappy, Clement, and Liyab's feeling themselves a little bit more. Here's that play down bot again.
Yep, this is PSG just knowing that there is no support here. They get the clean 4v2, go in for the gank here. And I felt like Liyab, for them, probably the best play was actually just to let him die right there. But they end up trading a lot of kills back. Kai Wing died there, River died there. So all in all, you know, they did get 3 kills off of that play. So not too bad for Liyab. in a situation where I felt like it was a bit lucky that they got those plays. I feel like the standard answer here was actually just to let Dawn die and pick up the scraps, but they do manage to catch PSG in an overcommit.
Yeah, a small mistake from PSG. Nets in favor for Liyab, at least trading a little closer to even, but a double charge on that Rift Herald as Xyliat just can't close in there in time. This is going to be 2 towers on the top side, and Xyliat doesn't have a lot of room to work with here. Dodoy was trying to take away a red buff while it was all happening, but Unified and Kaiwing find him.
No, don't do it. Don't.
Oh, wow.
Well
the distance smite. Oh, boy. Oh, he might be dead for that, though.
He might still pay the price, though. He's good. He's good.
Fine. He's good. A very cheeky move by Dodoy. I like it.
Yeah, I got a little bit worried right there. PSG still going in for this one.
Oh, no. Out of the frying pan, into the fire. When you flash away from the Tempered Fate and the Nocturne just jumps you.
And this is why you swap the Graves lane against the Nocturne. There's actually nothing you can do against the Nocturne. He just kills you straight up. So we've seen this many times before.
Straight up kills you. All right, well, Xyliat's back in mid lane. So maybe he's a bit more comfortable, but I don't know if he should be because 3v1.
Yeah, not much they can do right here, and this is one of the hallmarks of PSG play. They are very much willing to open up the map by trading towers and making use of their mobility. It actually is not an even trade. Even if you're able to trade 2 for 2 towers right there, I would still say PSG come out ahead because they have much more map movement and globals that allow them to play things like the catch we just saw. You know, Kanji trying to take a couple turret plates in the mid lane, and then in just swoops Hanabi for his 4th takedown of the game.
Yeah, at this point, Liyab, they just kind of need to stop the bleeding a little bit by stalling out with some waves. They have put Dawn into the mid, swap Xyliat down towards the bottom side, and eventually put Kanji back up in the top. So they're just trying to sort of hold the line a little bit, but PSG, they do like opening the map up, and they have so many options to work with here. Oh, Dodoy spots the Zoe. They're going to try to bait this. Oh, the Sleepy Trouble Bubble does land. The Graves can't get involved. Dodoy just gets to pick back up, and Kanji wakes up in time, but the curtain is already calling, and Unified is going to grab one, looking for more. Those health bars are evaporating, and in the jungle, PSG find themselves a clean 3.
You could tell in that play, PSG were just much more set up for that. All 5 mans already in rotation, while Xyliat and Dawn not really able to contribute much to the fight. Unfortunate for Dodoy, he doesn't get the double kick. He didn't really have the time to do it, so I understand he had to kick sooner or later. But unfortunately, we don't see the knockup by Maple, and Jin is just there to clean up everything, you know. This is typically how PSG games go. A lot of the action happening around River and Maple, and then you look at the scoreboard and suddenly Unified has 4 kills, and you feel like the game's kind of insurmountable from this point.
Yeah, just playing the cleanup duty. So another Rift Herald take here for River. Is able to solo that one out, and we're going to take a look at that fight in the jungle again. Maple stepping up, getting that Sleepy Trouble Bubble, and the Graves can't respond in time.
They have the TP ready here. Dodoy looking for the angle. He gets the angle, but not the timing down, and Unified is just here for the perfect cleanup. Not much that Xyliat can do. Doesn't get to play this game whatsoever. Doesn't have the TP up. So this is exactly what PSG love to do. They love to play with open map states. They will take advantage of every single timing window. And they come in prepared. They're fully aware that this could be a huge confrontation. They're ready for the 4v5, and they execute.
Yeah. And really just not afraid to use abilities to try and cut off escape routes, too. Like Kaiwing putting down that Tempered Fate behind everybody, just in case they decided to back out. Of course, Liyab do decide to go all in, and I commend them for that.
Yep, not much choice Liyab are given. I have to say, as the pessimistic Clement in me says that this game is probably over. We saw the Graves pick to do nothing. He's 0-3-0 right now. Hasn't been able to get ahead. Is still going for the lethality build. And he didn't even force a Seeker's Arm Guard out from Maple. Maple's incredibly comfortable in this matchup. So we are getting to the point where you're running around with a lot of Sinners on your composition. I definitely consider both Graves and Lee Sin as your typical Sinners. So it's really off the drop-off point from here. It's not going to get better. Liyab almost need to look for miracle plays at this point.
Yeah. Try to group and make it happen if they can possibly do it. But they're starting to run out of towers.
Oh,
And Dodoy, he was looking for it, but Unified just gets out of range to get kicked sideways and not back. Meanwhile, tower still being fired down on. And even with the Mega Inferno Bomb, PSG are able to keep on pushing.
Yeah, looks like a really quick game, like we might have foretold. PSG,
You talked about speedrunning.
This is a composition that takes absolutely no prisoners. Once you get a lead, you just snowball it to the ends of the earth. It's so difficult to have to consider so many different abilities that can disable your towers, that can fly in from global angles, that also have poke. Like, if you are a team that can't stand up to PSG in the early game, you look at this composition, this is probably the last thing you want to face.
Yeah, it's a pretty big nightmare for sure. PSG just steamrolling at the moment. And just on so many lanes, it's amazing how much they can actually get done by clearing waves and then group up as fast as they can. It's just such a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, this is definitely the PCS sniper comp. A lot of times they can be lethal without you even seeing any members. You'll just snipe your heart out, Hanabi flies in, and then just goes out. So for Liyab, I think the best way to play against something like that is you have to be grouped and you have to be constantly ready for an entire 5v5. The greatest thing that PSG can do is they can rotate their members very quickly to a certain spot, but the way you cancel that out is you stay grouped the entire time yourself. So I think Liyab, it really comes down to Aiden and it really comes down to Dodoy to find those 1 in 100 engages where they get this fight going and they snowball it from start to finish after the first pick. Xyliath with a good attempt here, but it looks like PSG are completely unfazed.
Yep. Let's see if they can pull off that death ball. Oh boy, Aiden getting caught on the poke from Maple. Paddle Star into Sleepy Trouble Bubble. But no follow-up, no dive. PSG, they don't need to right now. They're just controlling the pace of this game and looking to stroll leisurely down the lane whenever they feel like it. There's actually a teleport from Dawn to his own inhibitor turret. He was that worried.
Huh. Yeah, that was...
that didn't really do much. Uh-oh. Oh boy, here comes the paranoia. Curtain call combination. And Kanji does manage to get a kill onto Kaiwing. Where the heck did that come from? Maybe this is the turnaround they need. But the PSG backaway is too fast.
Yeah, they know the Solar Flare is still up, so Unified respects Aiden, gives him his room, and they continue with the siege. 5v4, they know they have the damage on Maple.
They cut the Lee Sin on the Sleepy Trouble. Bubble in goes Aiden. The Solar Flare tags his way out. The damage is not enough. Dodoy trying to be the hero, but he just doesn't have the damage. Looks to get behind, can't make that kick connect. And meanwhile, River going crazy as Xyliath falls, trying to make the play on Hanabi. And now it's only Dawn and Aiden, and I do believe that might be a 21-minute Baron.
I think you are absolutely correct. PSG, even after losing Kaiwing, they still have enough firepower just to stand their ground. And we saw Dodoy going so hard trying to go into the back line. But at this point, River already has Zanyas. He's very difficult to burst in the front line. And when Dodoy finally found the angle, he was still just tied up. I believe it was by Unified's root or something. He wasn't able to get the Dragon's Rage out, and he just ends up going down before even getting a chance to use the ultimate. So this is a play after Kaiwing has already died. Aiden goes in, pops his Solar Flare to really no help there. I think he should have saved his Solar Flare for a secondary engage. And as we see, Dodoy finally gets the kick. Doesn't even get the kick. He gets the position, but is instantly just bursted down.
Yeah, River got a really great Moonfall there, but I honestly think they probably were going to win that fight without it. I do want to see how Kanji got the angle to collateral snipe Kaiwing. Just missed that one out of the corner of my eye, but all the same, not really enough to deter PSG from the push. And now Liyab just desperately trying to hold the line here, but it's looking so difficult. This gold lead at 22 minutes, 12,000 against the Baron push. It's a 4-1 with Hanabi soloing on the top, or on the bottom side, I should say. Liyab just trying to hang on. Oh boy.
And this is a huge test for Aiden. He's the newest member on Liyab. It's usually very difficult for rookies to make game-ending plays. if he can against PSG. Oh, Dodo is still trying so damn hard. We have all ultimates up for Liyab, so if they want to try something, they have to try quickly and not allow PSG to poke them down before they engage.
You can see Maple opening up there with that poke right now. Here comes the curtain call. The shots are firing, just softening up targets as Dodoy looks for an opening but cannot find a damn thing. And meanwhile, in goes the combo once more as River starts by taking down Dawn. But maybe they got the turnaround here as Xyliath, no, he gets stopped short with Unified picking up the kill for that as they now start to march down the line, the flash forward, looking to just take down the remaining members. The Tempered Fate stops up Dodoy, and this will be it as PSG look to push in for that final play. Hanabi forcing them all the way back to Fountain, and they tag team it all the way to the finish. The bubble doesn't land, but it does not need to. They do take down Maple, and that might be enough to stop the end, but I don't think so. Here we go, Clement. PSG looking to finish that speed run out.
Yeah, TP coming in. This should be the last hurrah. The Nabi is just going to slow Aiden down. There's nothing he can do at this point.
Oh, he gets speared away from his own Fountain.
Yeah, the GGs come out. I love Liyab's heart in their strategy in playing this one. But at the end of the day, the weak side from PSG is enough to throttle the strong side coming out from Liyab.
And that is the way it goes sometimes. PSG picking up their 5th win undefeated here in the summer split. No surprises for the top dogs of the PCS. Valiant effort by Liyab. I liked what they were trying. Just getting outclassed. And you know, they're in good company because everyone else does too.
Yeah, it's no shame to lose to PSG, whatever fashion it happens. And I think for this game, we are seeing some more wrinkles in the Liyab strategy. They are willing to swap around the players in Xyliath and Kanji and throw curveballs at different teams. And also we saw a little bit more of Kanji's champion pool. So far, you only had the Viego. Now we have the Graves in the mix as well. So it's definitely, you know, developments in different areas here coming out from Liyab. A very interesting strategy, some interesting swaps going on. Just not enough execution. The 3v3s never really happened coming out from Kanji and Dodoy. I do wish that the mid jungle from Liyab was able to use their priority and take that top lane a little bit more. I felt like Xyliath was sort of left on an island, and even when Kanji was getting shoved, they didn't really do much with it.
Yeah, I think a little bit more proactivity in some of those laning phases, because I really love what they pulled out of the draft. It was some unorthodox picks. They did a lot of swap around, a little bit of trickery, but it seemed like it kind of stopped from there. And I want to see Liyab do a little bit more in those early games, because we have been seeing that improvement out of this team in the early game. Maybe they got a little psyched out. It happens against PSG. This is a team that is just terrifying to play against no matter who you are in the PCS. So maybe we'll see that continue over other opponents. I do think Liyab has been making some strides, and I'm really, really excited to see what this team is able to do, despite the fact that they haven't been able to find a win just yet. It does seem like they're inching closer. They're making improvements every day. And I like these swaps. I like some of these changes. They're showcasing some of the strengths of their players that are just a little bit different than the other teams and the other players in the PCS.
Someday they are definitely going to catch one PCS team off guard. I don't think it's going to be Berjaya again, though I could see Liyab taking down Berjaya for sure. But like you said, overall, it's just been improvements. It's been gradual shakeups to the team. They are running Kanji a lot more, which is, I think, is the right idea. You want both of your best players on the Rift. And to be honest, this game, I think we saw a bit of a jungle gap in the early side. River did get full vision on Dodoy, and while Dodoy was in the bottom side of his first 3 camps, River was able to punish the top side coming in from Xyliath far more than anything Dodoy could do. And we saw again when Dodoy was going for his Crux, he just got killed in the top side. Xyliath once again lost an entire wave. Hanabi was able to take down a couple of plates here, and this is your MVP. There's no real surprises when he starts the game out 3-0-0.
He's got an R button, and he's not afraid to use it. And before that even happened, he was able to pick up quite a lot, and just really, it's incredible for a player that was known for being the weak side top laner, that he's just been able to carry some games, to carry some lanes on his own. Yes, he's had some powerful picks like this Nocturne, but I mean, it's just incredible mechanics out of this player, and it shores up what was perhaps one maybe weakness on the PSG roster, and that's terrifying for anyone playing against them.
This is the crazy thing about PSG and what we were talking about in the pregame is that, sure, PSG, a lot of times when they go to international tournaments, they have to play early game because they don't have a mid-late game if they do not play very strong picks in the laning phase. But in the PCS, it's a completely different ballpark. They can play whatever they want. They can snowball as hard as they wish. And even Hanabi, who sometimes is the weak spot when they go to international tournaments, in postseason and in regular season, a lot of times he's still the best top laner in this league. Like,
yeah,
if you watch the finals, it's nobody could actually take him out of his own lane.
Yeah, really, really strong players in their own right, and across this league as well. Of course, looking at them when they level up for more international competition, or looking for them to be able to do that. But that's a long ways away. We got a lot of PCS to play, but let's take a look at our results. Was there anything that really stood out in your mind, Clement? I feel like the Impunity game went a little more lopsided than I was expecting.
Yeah, Impunity still not being able to get back to form is definitely going to be worrying for all our Singaporean fans out there. But overall, holistically today, there were no upsets whatsoever. We did see some interesting drafts from Hong Kong Attitude. I actually liked their drafts in the Boom series, but unfortunately they weren't able to pull through. In general speaking, I think we are seeing teams be more comfortable to just playing their old styles and disregard the meta. So PSG with the global composition, J-Team with a, this is, kind of disparaging, but I think they're best on do-nothing comps. So just scale to 35 minutes, we auto-win. That's exactly who they are.
Do nothing also includes losing. So do not lose is always a viable strategy. I know I'm really stretching, but right. You know what? It's been a long night. So you're going to have to bear with me on that. But there is our standings. PSG still undefeated, but Boom, Beyond Gaming, and J-Team all with 4-1, looking good. Machi starting to climb back. Berjaya Dragons, some mixed results. Hong Kong Attitude having a bit of a rough day, and then I think the biggest surprise is that Impunity squad. But we'll see if they can bounce back. It won't be the easiest. They've got Machi tomorrow, but here is the rest of the schedule. We start off with Hong Kong Attitude taking on Berjaya Dragons, then Alpha Esports against Boom. Machi will face their first match against Liyab, and I'm excited to see how that one goes. Followed then by Alpha Esports and Megabank Beyond Gaming. Machi versus Impunity, and we round the day out with another PSG Talon game, this time up against J-Team.
Ooh. That last match is definitely one you do not want to miss. J-Team was a team that was able to take games off of Talon in the past, so there isn't that much parity between these two teams. Spring Split was another story, but J-Team, with their recent performances and their laning strength, I definitely think they have a fair shot against PSG. You don't want to miss out on that one. And of course, the other big highlight matchup for me personally is going to be Machi versus Impunity. I feel like those two teams have a lot of sparks flying from them. That top lane matchup between Likai and Top King, where both of them are forefronts in terms of fighter players, is going to be a delight to watch.
Oh yeah, certainly a lot of banger potential across those matches and many more, but that is going to be it for us today. Thank you so much for joining us here for the PCS. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, but on behalf of myself, Clement, everybody at the PCS broadcast team, thank you so much. See you later.